Trump has come under some criticism in recent weeks over which groups specifically received the donations, how much money they got. Let's talk about that right now. That's the headline of the moment for Donald Trump. Governor Huckabee, how do you see this?
Well, it's simple. He can make this go away by just announcing there's $6 million it's going to the veterans. And the sooner he does it, the better, because the news media will hound him unless every cent has been spent. Now, in any charitable enterprise, there are always going to be people who don't come up with what they pledge. They don't actually give it. In this case, Donald Trump is better off if he has to write a personal check to make up the difference and prove $6 million went out the door. Then it's over, it's done with, and he can move on to other things.
Are you surprised that it's taken this long to actually see the details of this? Because this is the kind of thing that people will say, aha, okay, where's the money? So why haven't we heard the details yet?
I don't think this just goes away if we talk about the vets, because people want to see his tax returns, and that's going to be with him all through the campaign.
But why do they want to see those? There's nothing in there that people are going to understand. If people understood their tax returns, they'd do their own returns. As a person who has been in politics in elected office for many years, the dumbest thing I ever did was to release 20 years of tax returns.
Why?
Because nobody understands them. And here's what happens. Your enemies will nitpick them, and you'll spend all your time defending some line that they don't understand. Your accountant doesn't understand it. Look, the financial disclosure that you have to give as a candidate is far more detailed, far more intrusive than a tax return. A tax return is a complicated document for most people. For Donald Trump, it would be incredibly complicated. And for what purpose?
And let's not forget, he's getting audited right now, so he's got that excuse.
Right. That's what he said. Do you think? I think ultimately, if the audit ends, he's going to have to release the tax returns, whether
he doesn't have to. The law doesn't make him do it.
I know, but under
you know what?
pressure.
Donald Trump is the one guy who could tell him to put it where the sun don't shine. And I think he has made a mistake, if he's made a mistake in this, by saying that he would release him at some point. I think he should have just said, look, my tax returns are not something that I'm required to do. I've given you all the financial disclosure that I'm required by law to do. It's far more extensive, and be done with it.
Wow.
But in terms of the veteran, raising money for the veterans, you're exactly right. He's got to button it up.
That's right.
And just move on. And it's got to be doggone close to $6 million.
Do you think that happens today? If it's close to $6 million, does this go away? And then he details exactly what charities he's...
I just love all the scrutiny of this. And the fact of the matter is, even the reporters that have been on this story, there has been money and money and money going to these veterans charities. We know that. And we know it's in the millions of dollars. We know that. But the lack of coverage of the Clinton Foundation and the Inspector General's report and the...
unbelievable.
I just think...
The Wall Street Journal has been all over the Clinton Foundation.
The Journal has, and the Journal has really done original reporting on this. The Journal's done a fantastic job. But I think it's unbelievable, like when you see the Washington Post, we're going to put 20 reporters on Donald Trump, and we're going to make sure to get every little detail, and nothing like that about the obvious conflict of interest around the Clinton Foundation.
And Maria, there's a big difference between money that Donald Trump is raising to give to veterans that he's not personally getting, and the hundreds of millions of dollars that the Clinton Foundation is getting, and they are getting a bunch of that, at least in their expenses and all the other ways. It's a complete double standard. It's why Donald Trump is doing so well.
Let's switch gears to talk about Bernie Sanders for a moment. There was a rally in Oakland, California yesterday. It got rough. It forced the Secret Service to jump in, protect Bernie Sanders. Do you think these large rallies pose a security risk? Governor, this is not the first time we've seen it, but this really looks scary here. Watch how they have to cover Bernie Sanders. What do you think about this?
Well, it's unfortunate when some people don't understand just the simple proprieties of going to an event. But we are in a time of such chaotic disruption in our country that I think we're going to see more of this. It is not, though, unprecedented. You know, I'm old enough to remember the 60s. Unfortunately, I'm that old. And I remember in '68, the convention in Chicago, and not just that convention, but every political event was almost, if not a riot, a near riot. So this isn't new. It's just something that a lot of Americans haven't seen yet. And I hope we don't see it forever.
The conventions are going to be something to watch.
On both sides. We can be sure that Trump is going to be getting a lot of protests like this from,
maybe from Bernie Sanders supporters.
Yeah, exactly.
Conventions are not much fun anymore. They used to be really a lot of fun to go to. They're like a gulag now. The security is so ridiculously tight. Tampa was over the top, and it made it almost a miserable experience going because you felt like you were an inmate getting in and an inmate getting out, and it just was very frustrating.
Well, it seems like all the action is going to be outside on the streets this year.
Right, and how well they can handle it. But both these cities, Cleveland and Philadelphia, are getting $50 million each because it's a national security event. They're getting that from the federal government. So that helps put,
the same federal government running TSA. I feel better already.
No, I think the TSA, I think that, no.
Did anything get better this weekend?
Follow-up question. I think that the reason that the lines formed is because when Neffinger came in as the head of the TSA, he realized that the actual security that was in place was lacking because they were letting too many people through TSA pre-check. So that's why the lines developed. So we bitch about the lines, but ultimately it's about keeping the skies safe and keeping the flyers safe.
For sure.
So I think that they've gotten a lot of heat for something that they were trying to fix.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
Let me ask you about this Fox News exclusive, Governor, because former State Department Inspector General Howard Krongard, he says Hillary Clinton is wrong to claim her private email was like her predecessors. Listen to this. I want to get your reaction.
Secretary Rice did not have a personal server. I would have been stunned had I been asked to send an email to her at a personal server or private address. I would have declined to do so on security grounds. And if she had sent one to me, I probably would have started an investigation.
I mean, you know, the truth is when the Clinton camp came out after, you know, the State Department report, the Inspector General report, it was so disingenuous to say that everybody had, many other secretaries had the same situation because nobody had a server, and that's basically what you're hearing.
You know, if Hillary Clinton were a magazine character, it would be Alfred E. Newman of Mad Magazine. What, me? She never seems to want to follow the same rules everybody else has to follow, but it's a common pattern, and I think it is, it's indicative of the fact when you have an Inspector General that was not a Republican appointee, he was not some toady for the other side, he's not a part of the loyal opposition, he's a straight-up guy, and he realizes this was absolutely over the top and inappropriate.
Yeah. Well, Colin Powell and Condi Rice having Gmail is just not, it's not the same thing.
But the question is, does this go away if there's no indictment? Or is what we've seen right now, is this enough to stick with her throughout the campaign?
Legally, it may go away. Politically, it will not go away. And so her bigger consequence is the political consequence, because Hillary has one goal this year, get elected president. This complicates her election because it raises the doubt of her integrity.
If there's no referral for an indictment, expect leaks, which are just as damaging. Leaks from people who worked on the investigation, and people maybe even quitting their jobs.
Yeah, it's true.
Well,
if that's the kind of conversation going on at the FBI, it will come out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.